meeting. Okay, thanks, Jeff. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Olympic Region Clean Air Agency meeting for June 14th. We have a few folks in the room and a few folks online. So why don't we start with the online attendees? If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and introduce yourself. Let's start with Joan.
Joan Cathy, Tumwater City Council.
Carolyn.
Carolyn Cox, City of Lacey, pinch hitting for Robin Vasquez.
Great. Do you have any other board members there, Jeff?
No.
Okay, let's go ahead and do the staff that are online too, and then we'll go into the room. Dan?
Dan Nelson, Communications Manager, running the Zoom show from upstairs.
Great, thank you. Mike?
Hello, guys. Mike, Compliance Supervisor, sitting out here in the office.
Debbie?
Debbie Moody, Office Manager, multitasking.
Great. Jeff, are you turning up the volume?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go in the room then. And I'm Jim Cooper from the City of Olympia.
Greg Brotherton, Jefferson County.
Jill Warney, Grace Harbor County.
Right.
Randy Neville, Mason County.
Great. And our council
Jeff Myers from Law Lyman.
and staff in the room. Jeff?
So Jeff Johnston, ORCAA Executive Director, and we've got Nancy Wood, our compliance,
Air quality.
our quality and compliance. Yes. Why don't you? Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
AQS 2, so pushing my almost 1 year anniversary.
I'm Mark Gooden, Engineering Manager.
Lynn Harding, Financial Services Manager. Odell Hadley, Senior Air Monitoring person.
Not least, Robert Hoodie, Compliance Manager.
Great. Well, it's good to see everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. We have a good agenda in front of us, and I'd love to get an approval for that.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
A motion by Greg and a second by Jill. Any amendment or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Takes us to the chair report. I don't believe we have anything specific. Finances on the agenda. Just to remind you that we will not meet in August. I think that's the main announcement for going into summer. Oh, and that we have a party after the board meeting today to celebrate the paying off of our building and our 55th birthday. Great. Okay. So any public comment? I don't see public online. Dan or Jeff, any public comment we should know about?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Nobody's online.
Great, thank you. So that then takes us to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve it.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Okay, motion by Randy, second by Greg. Any questions, comments, or polls? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to unfinished business to finalize the executive director's 23 to 25 performance measures. Just a short recap for me, and then I'll turn it over to Jeff. In Jeff's contract, we spelled out that the board will adopt performance measures regularly and to match his contract. And so we're looking at doing this now just with the budget, so that it'll be timed with the budget process and be something for us to evaluate him on when we do his next evaluation. So Jeff, tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. So you probably remember back in April, I gave the list of the 4 performance measures that seemed appropriate to me: agency succession planning and management, an update to ORCAA's strategic plan, continuing to develop ORCAA's performance management process, and continue updating ORCAA's IT infrastructure, including the agency's databases. And so, and I didn't hear any feedback or questions on those. So, but I did, and what was shared last week was just an expansion of those things, a little bit more context about each of them, and trying to develop that in those four things into performance measures that were somewhat specific, somewhat measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And so that's what you have in front of you. And so again, I'm just asking today if there's any particular feedback on that, questions, happy to answer any of those. And then once they've been approved, then all those will be what I work on to over the next couple of years. And as spelled out in the contract in spring, when we're negotiating my next contract in spring of 2025, I'll come back with a update on these four performance measures.
Okay. Comments, questions for Jeff? I will say that him and I have been still meeting monthly and as we're able, and sometimes we miss, but and have talked these through, and they feel really good to me based on where we've been in the past year.
Yeah, and they're all things that I think, I mean, my goal was to come up with things that, you know, we'll be doing anyway, and that are really important for the agency to be doing, and to assure our continued success. And these things, I think, align well with things that the agency needs to be doing. And so, so that's kind of partly how I selected them.
And largely in line with what the comments we received during the evaluation process as well. So great.
Yeah, I think they're really well fleshed out. Good job. I think they are actionable and measurable. So I really appreciated the presentation of them, and they do seem in line with the conversations we've had with staff and performance evaluation. So yeah, good job as far as that goes.
Anything from folks online? Okay, love to take a motion to approve our executive director's performance measures for 2023 to 2025.
So moved.
Okay.
I'm having fun.
Jill takes one for the team. So motion from Jill, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Brandon. Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I,
Opposed, motion carries. Great, thank you. Okay, then that takes us to a public hearing on the fiscal year 2024 budget. So I think I'm going to go to Jeff and Lynn to present that, and then I'll open up the public hearing.
Okay, great. Well, I will kick us off and then invite Lynn to jump in if there's any, you know, with anything else that she wants to add, or if there's any questions. So again, as you remember, Lynn and I walked the board through the budget, through the proposed 2024 budget at our May meeting. So I'm just going to hit a couple highlights here, and then again, if you have any questions, please ask. So again, this is our 2024 budget. So it starts on July 1 and will end of June 30th of next year. In terms of some overall highlights, it reflects increase in fees, and as per previous board resolutions about how those fees are to be set, we use the consumer price index. And so the proposed fee increase is 6.3% for our fee programs, and then also for our assessments to support the clean air work that ORCAA does. And again, it's a budget for 17 FTEs. And so the budget does draw a small amount, about 7% on our unreserved fund balance to balance the budget. So an amount of approximately $200,000 is what we're looking at taking from the unreserved fund balance this year. Let me see if there's anything else that I want to highlight. Again, as in terms of revenues, again, everything, no significant changes in terms of our revenues. In terms of the balance between the fees, the assessments, the grants that we have, other sources of revenue. And our expenses, again, largely the same balance as it's been in past years, where we are a service agency. So payroll and benefits are by far the largest expense for the agency. The budget does include an implementation of the salary survey results that we've talked about and we had conversations about and presented. And then it includes a 4% salary adjustment for staff, as previously talked about and discussed. So I think that is all I have. Again, in the board documents, there's a number of things, a 2-page summary of all of this, then the line by line summary that's very small on the screen, but you all have had access to it. So in terms of the summary of the revenue, the expenses, and the balance, the contingency fund balance. Again, we've got some contingency is set aside for particular things, such as our database that we're, again, we'll be launching that process here soon to upgrade our database. And there's other reserve fund balances in there as well. But again, I feel like it's a strong budget for the agency, continues to make important investments in us as an agency, maintains our great staff that we have. So I'll leave it there unless, Lynn, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, I think Jeff really covered the majority of the points. The budget includes, it's a $3,173,548. So it is at the balanced budget. It's great to be able to provide that and share that with you. And staff worked hard. All the departments submitted their individual department budgets, their needs, and the tools they need to provide for our next year. And so thanks, Jeff, for providing that.
Okay. Great.
Yes, I think it looks pretty good. A couple questions. One, is the 100% occupancy and the commercial properties, I know we have it now, but I just feel like it's dark days for commercial properties, and what kind of impact if we don't maintain that 100%? I mean, is that just a little bit more reserve drawdown, or what's the plan in that?
Excellent question. I was actually going to bring that up as part of my department budget presentation, but we're at 100% occupancy with our 7 rentals. We work closely with all of our tenants, and more specifically, we work more closely with them the past 3 years due to the COVID era. That hopefully is behind us and moving further. Over the last 3 years, actually 4 years, we experienced minimal rental loss. And basically that had to do with folks who were facing challenges with COVID. And, but we were able to rent those units out. We had one of our tenants move from a larger unit to a smaller. And 4 of the tenants have been with us 6 glorious years, and which is great. And a number of our tenants are on multi-year leases. And that's something that they also choose. So we have factored in a increase in rents. It's about $50,000 a year that we have averaged over the last 8 years in rental income. And tenants, again, keeping close communications with them. They let you know when things aren't right, they're not balanced, I'm facing this, and having that close, communication with them, they open up with you and let you know. So to answer your question specifically is, I think we're okay. By that, I mean, we would use reserves if we had to. It is, what is it, 7% of our budget. And so we have funds to recover and replace that if need be. But right now, the tenants are happy where they're at, and so.
And we have had a couple recent so 2 of our units are relatively newly rented. And I know and Lynn was working with a number of folks who were interested in our units as well. And so
We have a wait list.
yeah, so it's looking pretty good right now.
Small stuff seems to be renting.
And they're affordable. We have affordable rents.
Okay.
So and it's covering the majority of our maintenance and operations required.
I just want to lift up from that discussion that our tenants were paying for our mortgage, and now they'll be getting to pay for our long-term maintenance on the building because we paid it off. Anything else?
I guess just talking about the succession planning that was, I think, in the item we just talked about, and just wondering, I know we're gonna have, if memory serves, like probably a proposal for a new staff member in January, and I'm wondering, do you anticipate more overlap as we work on succession planning, and how is that factored in?
So, yes, so I don't have a hard and fast plan right now, but been talking with some of the staff who are perhaps going to be retiring in the shorter term. And so talking with them and thinking about potential overlap so that when folks leave, there is opportunity for transfer knowledge. And so when I come to the board, when Lynn and I come to the board later in the coming months about the financial assistant position, I very well could be coming as well with another position to help with the succession planning and the transitions. Does that answer?
It does, thank you.
Great. Did you?
So, Mr. Chair, one thing, I'm never comfortable with looking like we're dipping into our reserves, but the one thing I want to tell you with history here, for the years that I've been here, which has turned out to be quite a long time now, I have found that our finance manager is actually very conservative always in her numbers. And so I actually don't have those fears with this. I think she budgets it in a way to make sure that it's covered, so we don't have anything that ever comes up, sneaks up and bites us. But it usually comes out better than she said, but she budgets that way. So I don't have those concerns with this particular budget because of all the past years and history.
Yeah, no, thanks for lifting that up. I've been sitting here a dozen years and it's been that way every year.
Yeah,
it's very.
she's very good at what she does, and we're very
We're
appreciative of her.
Definitely. Any other questions or comments from the room? And I'll check in with folks online. Okay. Joan or Carolyn, any comments or questions? Let's see.
Looks good.
I just want to agree with Randy. I appreciate how all of our budgeting is done, and I think we're fortunate with the staff we have, and I appreciate it. Like Randy, I've been here a few years, and I agree with how he phrased that. So thank you to staff for this too, and to Jeff. It looks good.
Great. Okay, here, any more questions, comments, a motion?
You're not doing this time.
It's a hearing, isn't it?
Oh, no, I gotta do public hearing. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm just like moving ahead. Okay, so thanks to our vice chair, we'll do this procedure properly. And now with no more comments from the staff or the board, I'll move into the public hearing. And open the public hearing on the Olympic Region Clean Air Agency fiscal year 2024 operating budget.
We don't do that, we'll get done 30 seconds early.
I know, right? So I'm gonna make sure we take as much time as we can here. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so the public hearing is open. Do we have any public signed in to comment?
There are no public online, and I will leave it to Jeff to decide if there's any public in the building.
Nope, I'm not seeing any members of the public here in the room.
Okay, any feedback on the budget from our public records?
No, we have
Okay.
not received.
We have received no comments.
Okay. Then hearing no public comment, I'm closing the public hearing. Public hearing procedural step has been accomplished. Thank you very much for the reminder, Greg. And now I will be looking for a motion to consider the budget packet for 2024.
I'll move that we approve the fiscal year 2024 budget as presented.
A second. I have a motion from Greg and a second from Randy. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Yay.
That makes
All right, bravo.
very good. Thank you. Or I think the first full process for Jeff, because it was kind of underway already when he joined us last year. So thanks to the team for supporting that transition. It's great. It's been a great thing. And thanks to Jeff not Jeff, Greg, for keeping the finance committee moving forward in a way that we could be efficient with our time.
Yeah, good conversation.
Great. Okay, so then that takes us to director's update. So we're going to go to compliance with Robert.
Good morning, all. Thank you for an approved budget. Makes next month easier. The compliance report is tab B5 in your packet there. And in the news this month, Department of Natural Resources has declared moderate fire danger for our jurisdiction, which shut down all of our land clearing burning. And then this morning, Clallam County joined as well. So they've declared a little bit earlier than usual as well, so. The permits that you find on page 9, which are all the land clearing burns that we have issued, are suspended. So that's kind of news and different, a little bit earlier this year than usual. On page 14 in the packet, which is the complaints section, very end of the complaints, you will see several complaints about smoke from the jungle. And for those of you that are not local, the jungle has been an ongoing issue for us as far as outdoor burning goes. It is located in Olympia and is home to approximately 100 transient people, homeless people, unhoused people. ORCAA has, with your blessing, we have contributed some funding to provide dumpster service to that community. And they went through and did a cleanup a month ago now, Jeff, I think it was. So that was part of the process of our work with them. Coming back to those complaints on page 14, process we have in place now, we've provided those to the Olympia Mutual Aid Partners, which is who we have this partnership with. And they responded to the community to meet with them. And I think it's worth hearing their response from their interaction. So that's what this is, very short and sweet. The outreach team was able to make contact with the individual burning the plastic and talk to him about the situation. He had been burning trash to help a disabled resident with their buildup trash, and it was the best way he knew how to help. So OLIMAP is providing direct service now to this disabled person that lives there, and are cleaning up their spot this week. So it's a win for ORCAA, it's a win for OLIMAP, and for the complaints that we hear from, I'm hoping this resolves some of their issues as well. And being a small agency, these partnerships are invaluable to us. We cannot pay enough to make these things work that way. So, any questions of me?
Comment, just that Jefferson County too is triggered our burn ban earlier as well, so. Yeah, and I feel like there's always some sort of disconnect with Jefferson County and ORCAA on that. I know that you guys don't manage our burn permits, is that right? No, you do manage our burn ban.
Yes and no. Most of it is done by fire districts up there.
Gotcha, okay.
On the east end, west end, and Berlin.
Yeah.
Area we have.
Okay. Well,
So, and I think Mason County and Grace Harbor had called burn bans prior,
They've
so
already
I
done
think
it.
most, except for Thurston and Pacific, I guess, are
Yeah.
2 counties that haven't yet called the ban.
Robert, I got one question. It looks like we have received approximately $134,000 in payments of civil penalties from Westport LLC. Could you report on what that was for in that process?
Okay. I would do this concisely. It was a series of violations of a federal regulation that limit the amount of styrene they could emit. Through COVID period, they had troubles with getting the resins that they need. There's some specific polyester resins that they would use that have a low styrene content.
Is this boat manufacturing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Very, not just boats,
But the yacht
very,
boats.
very large, very fancy yacht.
Previous Westport shipyard, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, this is.
Thank you.
Call it something else now.
Westport.
It's
LLC.
Westport, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So yes, these are very high dollar production yachts. That's how they meet their market. The violations went on for, I believe, 22 months from memory. Until we could get the new materials in and they could change some of their practices. So that was the settlement we came to over those violations.
Very on brand.
Okay, great.
And that's been fully paid.
Yeah,
So
so
that
they're
that
resolved,
case is closed.
they're in compliance.
Great. Now we can buy a Yahweh.
My conscience is clear.
And then I had a question on the land clearing permits that are suspended. Does the permit move it into the next season? Or do we have to
Historically, we have said they are canceled as soon as the summer burn ban hits. This one's early this year, but we have not carried them through to the fall.
Okay, so if they still intend to burn by then they reapply.
Then they would need
Okay.
to reapply and yes.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions for Robert? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. My agenda is spinning, so I don't have it right in front of me.
Mark.
Okay, Mark for engineering, thank you.
Thanks, good morning. I'm gonna start out with our commercial industrial air permits log, which is, I believe is tab 5 on your list. And you might notice that this list has gotten shorter. It's largely because we've been getting them out and not a lot of them have been coming in. So workload as far as construction permits has gone down, okay, but this list also includes air operating permits, and those, as you know, apply to our really big sources like Weyerhaeuser and Aberdeen and Sierra Pacific and Shelton, Grays Harbor Energy, McKinley, those big sources. So we've been able to shift a lot of time onto those permits. So just to identify those on the list before I move on here. Crown Cork and Seal there on page 1 is one of those facilities. Jennifer DeMay is the assigned engineer to that one. And she's also assisting compliance with a bunch of compliance activities. So there's a lot of activity there with Crown Cork and Seal. On the next page, Grays Harbor Energy, which is a big combined cycle power plant in Mason County. Grays Harbor. Sorry, thank you. So in Grays Harbor County, and it's big, they burn natural gas. We're renewing their air operating permit. And there's also some new regulations that apply to their combustion turbine there. So we're working on that one. Interfor, US in Port Angeles division. And this is going to be a new Title V source, and our engineer, Lauren Wygrew, is working on that. I'm working on the Grays Harbor Energy facility, and so a lion's share of our work has been going to that, but that's not all of the work we've been doing. I'd like to also point out that there's a lot of upfront assistance work that we've been doing, and so Dan, if you can bring up the first contact, actually the log first, please. We have this program, we coined first contact, and I think that it's something that I want to report on more regularly to the board, because it actually is more insightful, because it's showing planned projects. When we see something in the CEQA register, or we get a phone call that somebody wants to expand their wastewater treatment plant, or add a new boiler, replace a boiler, we work with them to get an application in, actually, hopefully way ahead of that, so that they buy the equipment that they need. So we coined this program First Contact. We've got a log, and Dan, can you pull up that log real quick? Yeah, almost there. Anyways.
That's all I have access to, Mark.
Oh, okay, well, we'll skip that. It's a big log, and it's got like 60 something cases where we're actively working with sources. By active, you got some old cases on there, because oftentimes you got companies that speculate and say, hey, I want to do this, that, or the other thing, and they're years off. Or you have other cases where, hey, it's after the fact, and they gotta play catch-up ball. So we work a lot with these sources. We call it first contact, and I'd like to highlight it more. I'll do it in a more organized fashion for coming board meetings. The other thing I'd like to point out is we've had a little bit of training. And so, Dan, if you can pull up that stack test training picture, we had folks attend some stack test training with Department of Ecology. This was 3-day training, which is very important. And there's Lauren and Aaron there on the right attended the training. This was very hands-on training, so it was really worthwhile. Believe it or not, this training was free. So thanks to the Department of Ecology, they organized this training, and they called us up and said, hey, we have slots. And we said, thanks. So we attended this training. This is important because when we issue permits, we need to put in the stack testing provisions, specify the methods, and put in whatever else needs to take place. Like oftentimes, like with a boiler, you need to monitor fuel. Not only that, you need to send the fuel to the lab to get tested to corroborate the stack testing. And there's requirements in the federal subparts that apply. So this training centered on the methods, the reference methods that are used. So we're really thankful to Department of Ecology for this. 2 of our engineers and 1 of our compliance persons attend this training, and I think several others have attended it in the past. Other things going on, there was a EPA Region 10, Title 5, and New Source Review workshop in Portland that I attended last month and presented at. If anybody's interested in that presentation, I'd be happy to send that around. My presentation was actually on a pending compliance case, and the names were taken out, of course, but this compliance case being that it had to do with a wood products facility that burns hot wood fuel, which is, prevalent in our area. We thought that would be a good thing to highlight at this workshop. So that was in mid-May. We've also been spending time on emissions inventory. And Dan, if you pull up that emissions inventory flip, the message here is that pretty much our emissions inventory is a year-round activity for the engineers. Now, the emission inventory is a way by which we gather data, and we could calculate emissions per source. Okay, so we know what each source is emitting on an annual basis. And it's a long process. It is fairly continuous throughout the year. Around November is when our team of 2 engineers here, Lauren and Jennifer, have QA, quality assured the data to the point to where we can use it and make it available. And this is a picture from a past presentation that I believe Jennifer provided. This is just one of the pieces of data that you can get. This is the PM10 to 2.5 emissions inventory from our point sources throughout our region. So you can see that the lion's share is coming from wood products, and then next would be energy production, like Grays Harbor Energy. And so with that, I think we'll close. We've been really busy this last month since the last board meeting. Construction permits have gone down, but we've had plenty of other work. And based on what we see in our first contact activities, we're just in a temporary valley, and it's going to go back up again. So that's all I have for you.
Please send me the presentation. I'll take it.
Will do. Okay.
Mark, is the valley like more of a pre-COVID normal valley or a recession valley? Like,
I don't know. Typically, you know, in past years, I could always bank on a high volume of construction permits coming in before the end of the tax year.
Okay.
And that did not happen. So, I don't know why it is.
everybody lost their credits and had to pay it. That's what happened to me.
I've had conversations with the directors of the other local air agencies, and there's not a consistent, it's not like everybody is seeing this drop. Some are seeing a lot of applications, some know it's about normal. So whatever's going on, it's not, doesn't seem to be industry wide or, you know, industry wide. And of course, maybe not too surprising, there's a lot of difference between the 7 local air agencies in terms of the industries and the businesses, the sizes of the agencies, but but for what that's worth.
I can tell you, Mason County in the purchasing of properties, moving back and forth, our REIT last month was down by 40%. This month we're at 32, but that's a huge difference of people purchasing properties to get ready to do something with it.
Right, well, and that volume impacts so many things, like I was hearing that about the recording fees for homeless services being
It's all
down
connected,
significantly because of that. Yeah, right, okay. So thank you, so we'll watch that and watch it with our, as we go into our new budget too. Yes. Thank you, Mark. Okay, air monitoring, Odell.
So Dan will bring up my presentation. All right, so May 2023 air monitoring report.
Sorry, I was trying to close that one.
Moving to the next slide.
So Dan, it looks like you're,
There we go. Okay, so nothing too surprising here. We had very good air quality in all of our counties in May, and that's pretty typical. Wood stove season has decreased and wildfire season hasn't yet kicked in, so yay.
Could we try to get the presentation mode? I'm sorry to interrupt. It's hard to see.
so Dan, could you move to presentation mode? We're seeing 2 different slides on the screen, and so.
It's the presenter view.
Yeah.
Just left entirely.
And
Peace out. No, I won't.
Sorry, I was in presentation mode, but it keeps wanting to jump to the wrong screen. So are you seeing it now?
well,
Yeah, still presenter mode.
Yeah, at the top of the presenter mode screen, there's a place to switch them.
There we go.
Yes.
so I just want to point out a couple sites here. Lacey, you'll notice we only had 9 good days and that we missed 20 days of data. We were having faulty equipment there, and so the communication kept dropping off, like the whole data logger kept freezing up, and I would get over there and fix it and it would drop off again. So several of those communications resulted in, and 2 failed QCs resulted in data having to be invalidated. So just a bad month for Lacey. The other one I want to point out is Port Angeles, where we missed a couple of days of data, and that was from an instrument failure, which caused the instrument to report orange, unhealthy for sensitive groups, and even red. It went into the red, and that's only interesting because we made the news. It happened over the weekend, and people are, you know, more aware of the wildfire smoke, especially from Canada and the East Coast, and so there was something on the news about, we don't know what's going on in Port Angeles, why is it red? And I got a few phone calls like, is it safe for me to go outside? It seems okay, and so those are things we really do have to watch for, and of course, they always happen on the weekend, and you know, if I'm not on there. Luckily, Rob Weiland was able to get up there that Monday. I came in on Monday and I saw him getting in his truck, and I said, hey, where are you going? And he goes, Port Angeles for inspections. I was like, so he was able to do that, and that was great. And then the other site is Raymond. We had a power outage just briefly, which caused us to lose a day of data. Do I have any other? Aberdeen, we lost a day when it was, just weird electronics failure type stuff which happened. So next slide.
Not much ozone.
Wow,
That's fine.
don't know what's going on there.
And now that's talk actually.
Okay, so our ozone side, I don't know why it doesn't all want to show up. But, we are monitoring ozone in Lacey. It was a good slide. It showed the correlation between our temperature peaks and our ozone and how they're highly correlated, but apparently we don't get to see that.
It's part of the presentation, it was part of your package.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so we didn't have any real high ozone days in May, but it did get a little higher than normal just because we had those really warm, hot days at there at the end of May. The Grace Harbor saturation study for May, I'm gonna carry this out through, July with the intent that July is the last, that'll have all of our sites a full year of data, and then I'll start, analyzing that data and working up the report. It occurs to me that there's gonna be a lot happening with Chesapeake at the end of July, so it may actually extend into August a little bit, but the plan is that July will be the last special, day. So, one thing I just want to point out here is this line, which seems to be higher than all the rest, and that correlates to Westport Coast, which is counterintuitive, I think, and I don't know this for positive, but I think we're picking up campfires for the summer starting. These peaks occur during the weekends, so I think that's what we're seeing because it's down there kind of by that.
Memorial Day weekend.
Huh?
Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, so, and that would have been this N1. So yeah, definitely higher than our other sites, but other than that, everything else looks pretty normal and pretty well correlated with each other. These are the Quinault sites and I think Seabrook, and those are also on the coast. So, next slide. So other monitoring news has been a busy month. We had our 6-month equipment audit by ecology at Chesapeake. And all of our equipment passed. It did great. So that was a 2-day trip up there with ecology. We also finalized the quality management plan for new guidelines from EPA. So that took a large chunk of my time. Usually I just kind of go through and update a few things and send it off. That happens every 5 years. This year they completely revamped the format and the elements that had to be in it. So that took a while, but that has been completed and signed and sent off. I also participated in 2 meetings with Olympia Climate Risk and Vulnerability Assessment Team that's going on throughout the summer. So far, the first meeting was just an introduction. The second meeting was sort of a brainstorming session of how Olympia. They identified 4 main areas of climate change, and then we kind of filled in with where we thought Olympia could be at risk from those things. And then I suspect that from there we'll go on to like, how can we make Olympia more resilient? So that was good. The Ascent is the extra instruments that we have up at Chesapeake. And that's it's different speciation monitoring elements, organics, different particles, speciating the particles. And that is being set up across the country at sites across the country, all the same instruments, the same site. So we are hosting the University of Washington. They're the principal investigators on this one. And so I participated in a workshop that was all of the people that are doing the Ascent sites, and that was really helpful to see the problems other people have had installing and what's going on there. So that's been great. EPA Region 10 quarterly call. I mentioned we replaced their monitor in Port Angeles. We have the federal equivalence method BAM monitor on loan from ecology at Lacey right now. We're continuing to test sensors and other stuff. I want to point out, we signed a contract with A Action Group to conduct the Chesapeake site cleanup. So that has been signed. A Action Group is a company out of Olympia. They were the only ones to answer our RFP, which at first I was like, we're gonna have to do this again, but their bid was really good. They have done a lot of work on tribal land. They were in budget and they had excellent references from federal, state government agencies that they've worked for and from the McCaw themselves. So given how good the bid was and how I decided that we didn't need to extend the RFP, that we did get a very strong bid with them. So pretty excited about that, and they will begin the tear down and the removal of those structures on July 24th. So that is exciting. And then lastly, Nancy and I conducted a workshop. I say workshops, there were two, we did two this year, for the annual Expanding Your Horizons program. And actually Nancy is going to tell you about that. So next slide.
Yeah,
And then if you guys have questions about monitoring, you can ask.
so this is Odell in our workshop classroom, and that's me hauling over the gear. Everything up there. So what this involves is middle-aged girl students, not middle grade.
Middle age.
That's how old they are.
So it's a STEAM, not STEM, a STEAM, so it has science, technology, engineering, art, and math. So there was a total of 17 workshops amongst, I think it was 5 or 6 presenters. And it's just business and professional women in our area that go and explain what these new careers could be. And we had a gal there that she was studying water quality. Keep in mind, she's like 11, 12. You know, so, but she was really energetic. And then we had some that were a little bit less involved until it got to the hands-on. And then Odell had some great hands-on exercises for them, and they really enjoyed those. We talked about air quality monitoring. We talked about is what I do compliance and going out, permitted facilities, unpermitted facilities, and weather, and how pollution might come from cars, industry, and what happens to it in the atmosphere. So, what do you think?
I think that covers it, yeah. And I just want to say, ORCAA has been participating in this program for 14 years.
Yeah.
I want to say, Dan, is that about right? Is that what that?
I was trying to find out.
Closer to 20.
20?
Jen started it before I came on staff, 19.
Okay, so 20 years we've been participating in this, and then we usually send out different women that work at ORCAA, and so we kind of rotate through who does it.
What location is that at?
South Puget Sound Community.
Which is a great campus, we use all our labs, and I get to go through the geology, you know. Pick up all the rocks.
Nice.
Yeah, so if you don't have any questions about monitoring.
Monitoring questions?
I have one question, and Dan's probably gonna talk a little bit about his coming and talking to our wildfire group later, but one of the outputs of that was a lot of interest in our public health and everything to add more nodes of monitoring, I guess, in Jefferson County. And I just wanted to, Commissioner Dean, who used to sit where I'm sitting now, remembers before, the pink air monitors weren't, or purple air monitors weren't recommended because of the lack of coordination. Correlation. Well, no, there's a adjustment that's done, right, on the national side. So I want to make sure the purple air is what you would suggest, and if there are any, I guess, criteria that we should observe as we put them. I mean, we're talking about putting them around kind of the schools around the area and the library, just to the areas, especially as we get into sports and events.
Purple air map really quickly. It's from online.
Yeah.
So the purple airs are very highly correlated with our nephelometers, but you're right, they do overpredict, but they know this and they have.
They
Purple air, right, thank you. And they have included into their map correction factors that you can apply that are most, and for our region, we recommend ORCAA. We also have purple airs co-located with our air monitor there. So I can do monthly seasonal checks and see what because that drift changes.
Okay.
Now, for your overall just wanting to protect health, I don't think that it's that critical. Like, I think you're still gonna get the air quality data that you need. So do you want to, can you scroll up to Port Townsend, just because, I want to see what's up there. So if you click.
Head of the dragon.
Yeah, so you've got several up there.
Oh.
So, if you, Dan, can you hit X on the box in the upper, left-hand corner? And then,
These are the Olympics.
actually, why is that not? So click on it again, and I think it says it's US EPA, which is, okay, so right there. No, wow, okay, my apologies, they have changed this since the last time.
Okay.
Sure, okay, don't go off there, so I can see the white box. Apply conversion, it's the second one down, thank you. So there, you'll see that there are several wood smoke conversion, LRAPA conversion, AQ and U, that's for Utah, not appropriate for our sites. But LRAPA is down in Oregon, and it does a pretty good job. The wood smoke does a pretty good job. So that one's directly, if you have wildfire coming through and you're looking at wildfire smoke, then you want to use that one. So yeah, it's kind of, user has to be a little bit intuitive about it, but for you guys, I would recommend LRAPA is usually a pretty good one.
Okay.
And if you really want precise numbers, you can contact me and I can tell you what the correlation is with our nephelometer
Gotcha.
and you can, but then you'd have to correct it yourself and download the data, and that becomes
Yeah, a bit of a
really
labor.
difficult. So I would say just, yeah, and the other thing to look at is, you want to see the two lines kind of on top of each, like tracking each other. If there's a big separation, it might mean there's something wrong with one of the sensors in that monitor. So, I don't know, maybe it's worth having another understanding your purple air numbers workshop or something, if you guys are gonna use those. And the only reason I recommend them, I mean, if there was another company doing that, that'd be great, but because the data are available online to everybody and you can go and look at it.
Right.
Dan, can you bring up the EPA's fire and smoke map?
Awesome. Well,
This is another tool
mhm.
that you can use, which incorporates the purple air and already applies the correction. So
Right.
nobody has to apply
So just look
correction.
at this.
You can just look at this map. And so our monitors are the circles.
Because this map also has the regulatory monitors
Yes,
on
so
it.
it combines our monitors with the purple air, with the correction
Correct.
applied. So the squares are the purple airs and our circles are the government run.
And it just picks up the purple airs from the purple air website.
Yeah, and it applies the correction. So EPA has already done all that work for you. So if that's something, if you want to put the purple airs out. And EPA actually looks for those sensors to be in track with each other, and if they're not, they throw out that sensor. So they have their own sort of crude quality assurance that they can do on the public purple air sensors. So this is really a crowdsourcing, government, public, citizen science collaboration that's really turning out to be pretty cool.
That is great. I love that. Can I ask one more question? Just, is there any way that we can do this that helps your work in monitoring? I mean, is there additional data that you need that we can be helpful, or is it just kind of, this is just for us and, you know?
Additional data is always awesome.
Oh, I know.
Just putting them out.
Just putting them out is all the thing.
I can go through and just skim the data from all the sensors in a whole region pretty quickly. And so, yeah, if I'm getting questions or whatever, if there's a certain day that I need to go back and look if that sensor was running, you know, and I think it can also help sometimes with compliance issues too. If we have people calling in and saying, oh, you know, my neighbor's burning and it's causing a problem, and we can look at sensors that are near there and compare with wind directions and say, oh yeah, that's a real problem, or, you know. So.
I guess then my final question on this is this something we should do in all of our counties or ORCAA counties? And can we get like a bulk discount if we buy them through ORCAA and the counties kind of subscribe to?
That's what I was gonna ask. A lot of companies have a professional deal, or at least would give us the retail deal so we can buy a pallet and then resell them.
Yeah.
Like we're doing with heat pumps that the city.
I don't know. I've just been kind of crowdsourcing, and then if there are areas like with the Great Harbor saturation study where, you know, there wasn't one there and I needed one to be there, we have a few that I can put up. But as you can see from the map, more and more and more are popping up all the time.
Mhm.
And so that's really helpful for us to do that. So yeah, I mean, when counties want to do that, that's great. I would have to think more about the efficiency or how we would go about doing something wide and how many that would be.
And honestly, I don't think Purple Air has a wholesale market. I think they're purely DTC, direct to consumer. So but I did want to note this map is something we promote a lot. It's used by the smoke blog, the Washington Smoke blog. It's used by most of us.
Yeah.
Not only does it have all the monitoring data, but it has the fire information. So if you notice down here in Southeast Washington, where I'm heading tonight, there's some new fires right on the border of Walla Walla County. And this map does a great job of putting the projected smoke plume out of those fires too. So if you have people that are interested in where they're seeing the smoke or how a local fire may impact them, this is a really great tool to use.
If you scroll out, Dan, we can show them the large plume from the Canadian wildfire.
It's not so large.
The country.
So we get smoke from that at Chica Peak soon then, right?
I don't think we will. I think the winds, we're gonna get a marine push, you see that push coming through. Although this is where I'm going, this weekend,
Go all the way around.
right up in here. But like I said, I think that's by the time I'm up there, I'm gonna be more worried about snow than I am smoke. So when I complained about the snow, my husband said, could be worse, could be smoky.
So that
There
site
it
is EPA Fire and Smoke, is that what you said? it was?
Boss
Yeah.
blog, right?
It's
Well,
fire.airnow.gov.
Yeah, so this
What, say
is,
that again, Dan?
Fire.airnow.gov.
Thank you.
and then the other one, the WA Smoke blog, just uses our little corner of it for Washington.
And the blog has not just a map, but commentary and forecast projections and thoughts from land managers and agencies and ecology and Department of Health and others that contribute to that.
And we all work together to respond to public comments as quickly as possible during the wildfire season, which has been really popular with the public.
And both those sites have the corrective factor already applied?
Yes.
Okay. And one final question, sorry, this is fascinating, but I mean, we're curious about making clean air shelters as well, like we have cooling shelters, starting to do that. And so thinking about monitoring inside, and would you use a Purple Air sensor? Would that be the optimal one to use inside too, like on an ad hoc basis to say, hey, how are we doing in here?
I mean, there are lots out there, but yeah, the Purple Air, if you go back, if you notice that some of these have black circles around them,
Does that mean it's inside?
that means they're indoors.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
So you can actually screen in that little box up there if you only want to see the outside ones or the indoor ones.
Oh, cool.
And I've seen them where people have, like, they're almost right on top of each other if you zoom in, so clearly they put one outside and inside, so you can compare that, so.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
And we've got an ORCAA Purple Air monitor right outside that door there.
That's nice.
Oh,
I've got one of yours in my cart too. I should remember to bring back in.
okay.
Thanks.
Other questions? I have one just quick. Is there a backup system when Chica Peak is down during the wildfire season?
Oh, it's good for the cleanup?
Well, you said they're doing the cleanups. Aren't they removing the shelter and getting ready for the new systems? Right?
Yes,
So
so
is
the
there a
plan
backup?
is, no, there's no.
Okay.
The Nia Bay has an air monitor down in Nia Bay, so the PM 2.5, they will continue to have that. But for us, for the improved site, for the Panga, the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, the early earthquake warning, that's all gonna be down for about 2.5 to 3 weeks. So let's fingers crossed. We don't need that, but it is necessary for long-term, having that site maintained long-term. So I will be going up. Actually, I think I'm gonna be shutting the power off to the site on July 20th, which is Thursday, when I'm up there. And then all the crew will come up on the 24th, and that will be tearing down or pulling out structures and old towers and digging new power line trenches and all of that stuff. And then installing our new trailer next to the one that we're keeping. So, grading and graveling out the whole site so that we don't have stuff growing all over everything. And then I'll be back up the third week, that first week in August is when I'm gonna be turning power back on and putting everything back in service. So that should be when we have, hopefully, everything back.
It's turning out to a really complicated project. So Odell is doing an amazing job of coordinating all the different contractors involved, all the different people who have
Just hold
monitors
your
up
praise
there.
Until the job comes.
Capital projects manager. Cool, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll go now to Dan for communication.
Okay, so let's see. I've got too many screens open here. So I'm unmuted and you're seeing me and hearing me.
Correct.
So we've been talking about wildfire smoke. Timing is perfect because this is Smoke Ready Week. So it's the Pacific Northwest. Actually, it's kind of a national thing, but really focused on the Northwest community. We took the lead and created a outreach, social media outreach week, similar to the Air Quality Awareness Week we did in May. Targeted messaging each day. We're sharing the same social media posts and graphics throughout Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, all using the same material. So each of our small social channels gets amplified by everybody else in the network. So I can show you what we're doing on, let's see if I can pull it up. I've got, so there's our Nextdoor page. Nextdoor has been, it's a tool that's really effective to get out to people because the communities, you can see our jurisdiction, we've been able to highlight all 6 counties. We push the message directly out to people. The one caveat with Nextdoor is I always turn off discussions on posts because they tend to disintegrate into chaos quickly. So it almost always ends up being a discussion of homelessness. So we don't allow discussions on our Nextdoor page since that's going out to the broader general community. On Facebook, we allow discussion because that's a community that has sought us out and subscribed to our page. So it's a little more polite discussions on Facebook than Nextdoor. But we've been posting on Nextdoor. We get really great response from that. And that's pushed out to a lot of homeowners associations and community groups. So it's a good tool, but it's one you have to manage appropriately. So that's Smoke Ready Week. In conjunction with that, as Greg referenced, I did go up to Port Townsend last month with Caitlin Kelly from State Department of Health, and we talked about wildfire smoke preparedness and community responses and how they should prepare. I did a similar presentation with Caitlin at Thurston County Emergency Management here in Olympia. And we also, I got some of the staff here on camera. We built some do-it-yourself box fan filters and went through the process of building the different versions of box fan filters. So I'm still in the process of organizing those video clips and getting them processed and edited for publication. But if you want to see what a DIY box fan filter looks like, I've got 2 set up upstairs. We can show you later today during the party. Wood stoves is another project we're wrapping up. Our grant cycle ends at the end of the fiscal year, so we've got another 16 days to get all those in. So spending a lot of time closing that out and also working to make sure our next cycle is going to be more effective, efficient, and hopefully a deeper reach into our communities. So my plan, and it sounds like we've got some agreement with the state that we would expand our replacement awards from just Thurston County and the Shelton area to all of Thurston County, all of Mason County, and eastern Clallam and Jefferson, areas where we've seen higher levels of smoke. We do have denser populations. Ideally, I'd expand that to Grace Harbor and the Hoquiam Aberdeen area specifically, but it's going to depend on what the state accepts as far as air monitoring data numbers. If we're not approaching that 20 microgram threshold that they see as at risk, it's less likely they're going to allow that. But we will be making sure we have the recycle award, so the $500 award, just to get rid of an old uncertified wood stove, available to every homeowner, every property in the 6-county jurisdiction. So those are the big things. I've again been meeting with vendors as well, the wood stove and HVAC companies, making sure that we're going to address their needs too, so that we've got them on board for the next program. And actually, one other thing I wanted to try here is I'm going to see if I can share my iPhone, because one tool, and maybe some of you knew this, but I wasn't aware. If you have an iPhone, you go to your basic weather app. So your weather app, click on that, click on the map, click on layers, and you can actually select an air quality layer on any iPhone and get real-time data right on your iPhone within the weather map.
Google Maps, you can do that now too.
So there are some great apps available as well, and I can, so
Cool.
Air Now, EPA's Air Now has a really good app that you can scroll through the different cities if you want and see what's going on. The state has a similar, let's see if I got the state queued up. They've got their map basically on their app, so you can pull up all of the state monitoring data. Let's see, now I'm locked up here.
Let's get
Okay, so anyway, there's some really cool tools available on your iPhone, and I'm guessing your Google platform probably has similar tools, but finding that air quality layer within the standard weather map app was a nice benefit, or a nice surprise for me just yesterday afternoon. So other than that, seeing like we're going to have a busy summer, and I did just find, Greg, the Jefferson County burn ban information started last weekend, it looks like. So we need to work on maybe making sure we get that press releases from your guys. I do want to thank Randy. Mason County does a great job. Your commission staff keeps me posted with any press release your county offers. So I'd rather see them all than not enough.
Careful what you ask for. So Dan, can you talk about and maybe show the ORCAA summary?
Oh, right. I apologize. Yes, so we did also go back. In the past, we've done really detailed annual reports. Frankly, I don't think many people actually read them. They were usually 10 to 20 pages. So this year we wanted to do just a really concise update on where the agency went over the past 12 months and where we plan to go in the coming 12 months at this budget change cycle. So we do have in your board packet an agency update and financial summary. So highlights of last year, covering things like the website change and all the new programs we implemented, and then where we're going with the proposed budget, some of the financial information, and then the planned activities. So this is a tool hopefully to keep the public better abreast of where we stand, where we've been, and where we're going over the 2-year cycle. So again, the goal was to be just a kind of an executive summary level rather than a super detailed dive into the financial reports and agency updates. So any questions on that or our outreach efforts?
Question for Dan. Addition, do you have something else to add?
Well, just would love any feedback that you have on that document. I mean, I know I answer a lot of questions about, oh, where's your funding come from? And things like that. So I think it's going to be a helpful document, but if you have any comments or questions or suggestions, if would love to hear them. Just again, is this a helpful thing? Should we continue to do something like this each year? Or how can we evolve it to perhaps make it more helpful?
And we also are doing, we're going to start doing more regular updates of our online history document too. So that's kept up to date and abreast, and make sure we have all the highlights going forward so people can see back the 55 years we've been in existence. And as one of our previous employees noted, who's at EPA now, he sent his regrets, but noted that ORCAA predates the EPA in terms of founding dates.
Doing clean air since before the federal government.
Amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I like the new format. I think it's great. And very, very helpful. And I think we'll have a wider audience.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like, it's a really nice, like, point in time, understandable, not too many pages. Okay, anything else for Dan? Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll go to Lynn for finance and other things.
Good morning, all. Nice to see you again. Thanks for coming. Yay. Thanks for approving the budget too. Yay, thank you. Definitely a time to celebrate, right? So Dan's gonna bring up a special document for a special day. Oh, wow. Right, Dan? I know you will.
They're somewhere amongst all those windows.
So the special document that we're sharing is namely the full reconveyance on the ORCAA office building. Wow, so
Hey, we own
the
it.
full reflects that, yes, ORCAA has paid our debt in full.
Do you have a virtual of it going up in flames?
That's up to Mr. Cooper.
We've got a ceremonial copy that we can decide what you want to do with, maybe tear it up or.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna eat a little tiny.
We can't burn it.
Not feeling like a goat today.
So we paid off the building, as you well know, in December 2022. And the county has just, Thurston County, who carried our debt for us, thank you, Thurston County. They have signed and filed the necessary paperwork. So ORCAA has all the rights, the title, and the interest of the property. that we're all in right now. So yeah, definitely a time to celebrate. And I've already kind of updated y'all on our tenancy and our occupancy with our 7 tenants. And the tenants are very appreciative on the number of improvements that ORCAA has accomplished in the past year and a half. You know, we have new flooring, we have a new street sign, which is great. And, you know, the improvements continue. And also a major improvement is our ground maintenance outside. We did not have a regular maintenance employee, and with the hiring of Dave Nelson, great guy, I gotta give him a shout out. He's just done tremendous work inside and out. And the tenants have noticed it, our employees have noticed it, and so in our fiscal year 2024 budget, there are additional maintenance and operation improvements. I'll be working closely with Dave and obviously Jeff as well on the fiscal year 2024 planning and what those improvements involve. And let's see, I've already mentioned our tenant rental income and what it does for us in helping us, which supplements our maintenance and operations budget. And Dan, you there? So we're just looking for that important document that you have in your hands. And let's see, so looking forward to all coming together this afternoon. We are scheduled to write the fiscal year 2023 year-end financial report at the September meeting. And Curtis, a reminder, when is our next finance committee meeting? Well, it's gonna happen in September as well. So other than that, any questions? Happy to entertain any.
Is that ceremonial paper empty on the back?
I believe it's blank. I think it's just a
Oh,
one-sided.
that's good.
Yes.
So what we can do with it is we can recycle it, put up on the board. Thank you to all of our employees for the excellent work they've done in the last couple of years.
That's reusing. That's
Yeah,
better.
we'll recycle and reuse.
All right.
I have one question for you, Len. I'm just wondering, does Thurston County Treasurer's Office is our bank, basically, right? And I'm wondering, do we have our reserve in the LGIP? It's just doing so well right now. I'm wondering.
It is, actually, for the month of May, we had a little over about $2.2 million average daily balance. And we brought in $3,915 in interest income. So that's pretty dynamite. So again, they're doing a great job. Nicole, who works closely with Jeff Gadman, does the county's investments for all entities that are part of Thurston County. And she just, you should go off into her office and she's got like 6 monitors and phenomenal. I don't know how she can, roam those monitors and understand and quickly pick up and, so her investments are, they're doing wonders for us.
Great.
So here we go. This is it. Here's our full reconveyance.
Oh, wow.
So again, the county has signed and sealed. They also recorded it as they should. And so it's now.
Now ours.
Hey.
Very
Oh, we can sell these desks that came with it.
These,
Just
yes,
leaving that
next
out.
time you have a meeting in this conference room, yes, these should be gone and we'll have something else a little bit more fitting of the room and a little more, a little more mobile and that we can.
These are nice though. What are you gonna do with them?
No, this is
Well,
actually a
we'll-
pretty good setup.
This is for a small county anywhere that needs a dime.
Yeah, hopefully we can again repurpose and reuse, find a good new home for them. 'Cause I mean, yeah, they're. If you have any ideas, if you have anybody in your jurisdictions that you think is looking for some new conference room tables.
Quality.
Yes.
As long as they don't have to move them very often.
Exactly.
Or a horse racing commission.
Right, yeah. I mean, it seems lucky.
Yeah, right.
Thank you all.
Okay, anything else for Lynn? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your support.
Great work. Okay, and Jeff.
Okay, well, just a few updates. Don't have much to add beyond what you've already heard from the team here. As we talked a little bit about the compliance side and settling with Westport, we've been working with a couple other sources to get some outstanding compliance issues settled. And so hoping that in July I'll have some good news to report and other progress to report. So let's see, in the past month, I've participated in a couple national and international meetings, actually. So on May 16th and 17th was the National Association of Clean Air Agencies, which is an association of 40 state and about 117 local air agencies. So these meetings are always a good chance, because again, the work that we're doing is very similar. And so it's a great chance to hear from other agencies that are struggling with some of the same things, some very large agencies, but also some very small agencies. And so some key topics came up at the NACA meeting, just a lot of updates from EPA on things such as where things are going with updating air quality standards, various permitting updates, and a variety of other topics. And it's a good showcase to highlight some innovative efforts from local air agencies. Looks like Carolina just arrived. Come on in.
Yeah.
All right, well, I've been providing my updates. So anyway, so the NACA meeting was good. And then actually last week I participated in what's known as the Georgia Basin Puget Sound International Airshed Committee, which is a group of federal, state, provincial, local government agencies in Washington and British Columbia. And of course, our airshed is an international airshed, and that we share it with Vancouver Island and British Columbia. So it was and similar to in the US, Canada has a very confusing mix of federal, provincial, and local regulations, and different agencies are involved in regulating air quality there too. And so, but it's a really good opportunity to get to know folks. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend in person, but even participating remotely is good in a variety of topics. the interaction between air quality and climate change came up. And of course, the backdrop for last week's meeting was the wildfires in Quebec causing significant air quality issues in the Midwest and on the East Coast. And there was also some good presentations on wood stoves. We heard from EPA about what they're doing in terms of updating some of the emission standards for wood stoves. And also we heard from folks from British Columbia talking about their wood stove changeout efforts, which are similar in a lot of ways to ORCAA's program, but do differ in some ways as well. So again, these meetings are important, and sort of along the same vein, although closer to home, I'm currently serving as the chair of the Washington Air Quality Managers Group, which is the group of the executive directors of the 7 local airs in Washington, as well as a Department of Ecology. And so when we meet every other month, and again, it's just a really good opportunity to connect with folks here, how things are going. I know last month I talked about what I had heard from them about their fee increases, their assessment increases and things. And so, yeah, so I'm the chair of that group for the next year.
Bravo.
Let's see, I think that's about all I had. Just wanted to say, sort of in transition to our meeting next month, as Jim mentioned, we are skipping August, but we do have a meeting scheduled in July. There is nothing currently, nothing specific on the agenda other than the usual department reports. But so if there's anything anybody would like to see on that agenda, let me know, let us know, or we can have a fairly concise meeting likely in July. Again, according to the State Clean Air Act and our bylaws, we do need to meet 10 times a year. So we aren't planning on canceling the meeting, but let us know if there's anything you'd like to see on that agenda. So I think that's it for me.
Okay, great. So if you have agenda ideas or things you'd like, or learning opportunities
Sure.
as a board, just get those to Jeff and he can think about the July meeting. And then we also have the board agenda planner in our packet. So if you're looking out and want to see what's coming up, you can see that. Anything for the good of the order? Go ahead.
I have to say, I was tickled to see my joke in the minutes. It's not my joke, but I am curious about AI and whether we're looking to use that in the organization. I think it's I think it's really critical, like public records requests, putting all of our records up onto chatbot or something, and it can do that research. I think it can be a big lever, and I just really want public agencies to be leaders in this rather than following.
So, yeah.
Respond is real quick.
Hold on just a second. So let me just say that, yes, we have had some internal conversations about it. We've had some internal conversations, and I do see some real potential for it. We haven't done anything, I think, specific. So if you have ideas or again, examples of how public agencies have used it or particular areas that they're kind of pursuing, I would, please let me know, because I would love to hear more about how it could be used by or for public disclosure requests or other things. Mark.
Yeah, I tried it out on a permit condition, a very specific permit condition, and it's not there yet. And I don't know whether it's due to the fact that it's not. I think that there's a cutoff year at the time that I checked it out, but it does have access to all the Code of Federal Regulations and things of that nature. So I tried it out. It gave maybe a good starting point. And then at that EPA workshop, we talked about it during the after sessions. And it doesn't seem like any other permit writers are using it yet or have even thought about it, but it is intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest maybe playing with ChatGPT-4, which we're doing in our planning department too, where you sign up for the $20. And then you can load your own data sets into it. So you don't have it going out and looking, you get around some of the truthiness issues, I think, by just saying, oh, well, just our code, if you put it in and the whack and the RCW, then you have a very limited data set that it's coming from. And I'm hoping, and it's still, it's playing right now, right? But Yeah, that sounds great.
And
You might try.
Did anybody hear about that attorney that was just?
I was, yes.
Yeah, because it all turned out to be. bull.
Made up.
Yeah.
Not very true.
And so he.
How did he check it out? He said, hey, are you lying to me?
Yeah.
No, I'm not lying to you, so that you
But
can't.
it goes to tell you, you have to still, no matter what, garbage in, garbage out, you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Well, that's the stuff I've been reading in the most is like, what's your quality assurance for how you use a system like that? At my national conference, in my day job, people were already writing contracts at work with the paid version of it.
Yeah.
Using their contract sets that they had in-house. I also have heard that Microsoft Office will be fully integrated with Thor like any day. And to the point where you'll be able to use PowerPoint like Chat GPT and ask it to create the presentation based on the conditions, and then you can edit. The big thing I think is to also make sure that we're talking about what that means for employees and their, job assignments and job descriptions as things change, because I think we're in a world where, to Greg's point, things are gonna change rapidly. It'd be a great place to be a leader and not a follower. And if we're on that cutting edge, I think, if somebody told me, if you don't do this, you're gonna be left behind. And I think that's really is the case in the world we're seeing today.
You're not gonna lose your job to AI, you're gonna lose your job to people that know how to use AI.
That's right. Right.
So again, as you find examples or specific things where you think, hey, could this interact with ORCAA's work, please let me know. I mean, I try to keep track of things and look out at that kind of thing, but it's hard to keep up with it all.
It's dizzying, for sure.
Yeah, I would wonder if like the cities or the counties or the state would have like a learning group or a coalition kind of that's exploring.
Maybe,
Tap into like Wasac.
and perhaps
I
MRS.
know, in fact, I think I saw Wasac hiring.
Oh, yeah.
Wasac had an AI position on their website the other day. So, okay,
Need an attorney if we got enough.
so not a joke, not a joke. You always need an attorney.
Push the button and get out.
Whether it's
Doesn't always work.
Oh,
Whether it's a paralegal or a computer writing the draft, Jeff still has to sign.
Somebody has to put their.
That's right. Just like the engineering stamp still has to go on it, right? Yeah, I feel good about it. So, okay, thank you for bringing that up in a non-joke way. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, so we have no executive sessions that I know about. And our next meeting will be July 12th. It will be fully virtual unless public need a space to come, as is required. And then we are having a party outside in about 20-30 minutes, anytime. I think you can gather when you're ready. Does that
Yes,
sound-
exactly. So just, please just make yourself at home. We still have probably a little bit of setup to do, but yeah, most of the activities will be back in the back. But I know this is maybe the first time in the building for some of you, so if you want, we could give some tours. I know Dell has a monitor set up, if you want to see, or you want to see our purple air monitors, you know what one of those looks like, or want to see an ephelometer operate, we've got that set up. We in terms of the official start time of the event is around noon, so about 30 minutes is when our guests will be arriving. We've got a few other people, former staff, and some partners coming to help celebrate. So again, thanks for being here with us today. Exciting day for ORCAA.
Yeah. Okay, with no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.